So everyone has like a very unique artistic background, which really reflects the brand, and the label can actually make something we can stand behind and believe in.
So let's begin with the most basic start, which is Ryan, can you share the behind the scenes or how the brand itself was created?
Yeah, and so before I get into that too, I've been a big mezcal lover before I ever even sold it or made a dollar doing that. So I got to actually meet Ron Cooper, who is the legend that started the Del Maguey label back in like 2011, 12. And I got to drink Rabbit Pachuca with him and all these other amazing things. So the reason I bring him up is he's a kind of one of the people that we look up to, is how to sustainably bring a brand and how to like create culture that crosses boundaries in a sense. He has a
Mhm.
beautiful book that I recommend anyone to read if you haven't read Ron Cooper's book. Um, but we share a similar story. One of our founding partners, Tony Farfalla, and one of my good friends, Stefan. Tony's an artist, and he was literally traveling through Oaxaca doing documentaries and embracing the art and culture. And he happened to meet Jose Morales, which is the first family we ever worked with. And if you have original bottles of Madre before the labels have changed and everything, it used to say Jose's name on the bottle. So Tony was bringing bottles back to Brooklyn in plastic water bottles, which is very similar to Ron Cooper. Ron Cooper's an artist from Venice that was bringing it back for friends. So it kind of snowballed. His friends in Brooklyn were like, this stuff's great. And it started out in plastic water bottles in 2014. And I think it was 2016 when our first glass bottles actually came by, and we became like a more legit brand and company. But it started with Tony and Stefan, and they brought on our CEO and COO, Chris and Davide. And Chris and Davide have an amazing story. Chris actually is one of the founding driving forces in electronic scene in the 90s in Europe. So comes from a very artistic, music-based background, and then he went on to work for some bigger alcohol brands in the vodka world. And then Davide, who is our COO, my direct boss, who I love, is from Northern Italy, and his whole family built furniture, and he got his big break by importing and bringing furniture over. And he also works with Ether Apparel, which is this beautiful high-end apparel line. So everyone has like a very unique artistic background, which really reflects the brand and the label, and just not wanting to make a quick buck and actually make something we can stand behind and believe in.
That's
So,
incredible. Nice.
and
I
as
think
the one family's now blossomed into four, so now we use three, the Vasquez family, the Bloss family, and the Morales family are our three main producers for our red and black label, which most people are familiar with. And then
okay.
we just brought in Moises, and he's actually from Santa Catarina, Minas, and that's a little town where all Real de Minero makes their production. And it's
Okay.
a town known for nothing but clay pot distillation. So if you actually use a copper pot in Santa Catarina, Minas, you're kind of looked at as like, what are you doing? Like, that's not what we do here. So he's our last and newest producer, and he may be the most cowboy of them all, and he's kind of my favorite. So like
My
when you
God.
get to his Palenque, you have to walk over like a little rope bridge over like a river and stuff into the hills of Minas to see his production. And he's got his grandfather's old still, and he's got his mom's little kitchen that he wants to reopen. And it's like a restaurant. But if you and I were to look at it, it just looks like a backyard set of tables and chairs with like a cooking center. And he's like, no, this is a restaurant for the village. So it's really, really beautiful down in Minas. I recommend everyone, if you get a chance, to go down there. It
That's
felt like
cool.
the jungles in Costa Rica because it's up near the hills and it's just so green and lush up there.
Ryan, as we wrap up, let's talk about where can we learn more about Madre Mezcal? Where can we buy it? Where should we be visiting to find out more about it?
We have a beautiful Instagram online. MadreMezcal.com is our website. We also have this Instagram called mezcal.learning, and it really is an easy way. It's an Instagram, and it's a little short videos and little blurbs to talk about production, families, history, and culture. It's most of your nicer bottle shops, liquor stores. In California, we're lucky enough to be in Trader Joe's for the Espadine, and Whole Foods has our ensemble. which I always say support your local liquor store if you can. They're going to have much better stuff but at the same time, I understand times are rough and the pricing at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods is fantastic. And if for some reason you can't find it, you go to madremezcal.com. We ship bottles to almost every state in the US. I'm just excited to see the culture of mezcal just expand beyond just America. And we're actually now in 9 countries too.